Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we're privileged to have with us a special guest. Her name is Kathleen Gage, and she's with Power Up for Profits. Welcome to the program, Kathleen.
Mike, it is great to be here, and nowadays it's great to be anywhere.
Yep, you look outside and you see, hey, I see some sunshine and I'm breathing air, and that's a wonderful thing. So that's a great perspective. In fact, I just listened to an interview before we connected here, and it was Tony Robbins being interviewed by Joe Polish, and he was saying, his normal Tony Robbins speak, but he was basically saying we need to be grateful and thankful for every moment that we have and maximize and all of those things, and you just really do.
Absolutely. I had a spiritual teacher many years ago, probably 30 years ago, who really worked with me on attitude. And because at that time I had a kind of a poor attitude, and my life reflected it. And she said, you need to start being grateful for what you have. And I said, I don't have anything to be grateful for. And she said, do you have your arms? Well, yes. Do you have your eyes? Well, yes. Are you standing up? Well, yes. And, she went through this whole list of many things that we take for granted. But nowadays, you look at all that's going on in the world and the simple things, we can really find a lot to be grateful for. So,
well, and interesting you brought that up, because there's a speaker that I'm familiar with, and he runs a ministry called Life Without Limbs, and it's a guy that was born without arms, without legs, and
Nick,
you think,
what's his name? Nick
Vujicic or some, exactly, and it's unbelievable when you can see the positive impact he has on the world, and here we are going, I can't believe whatever, fill in the blank, right? And here we are thinking, we're so high and mighty because we don't have something, or we're mad and our day is shot because fill in the blank. And here's people like that, or here's, isn't it interesting? I know that there's research on this too, where immigrants are statistically higher chance of becoming raving successes when they come to the United States. Why? Because they're coming from a hard place, and they're appreciative of the opportunity that America gives, and they get out there and get her done.
Absolutely. And there's a gentleman in National Speakers Association. I heard him many years ago, and he actually started a bank, and he came to the country with maybe $20 in his pocket, and he's just a major success story and worth billions now. And gosh, if I can't remember his name, but he actually said it was his drive and appreciation of being in an environment that allowed him to create pretty much what he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when we're given so much so soon in our lives, we don't realize what privileges we do have.
Yep. Yeah, we could talk for hours on end on things like that, but let's circle it back around to tell us a little bit about your background and what is Power Up for Profits.
All righty. Well, I've had my business 21 years, so I've been around for a while, and I actually started as a corporate trainer because I left a corporate environment. And over the years, I actually had many transformations in my business, and really the Internet was a big shift for me, where when I saw what the potential of the Internet was, and I was following people like Tom Antion, Matt Basic, trying to think of all the names of the people that I was following way back when, I got a glimpse of what the potential was, and I took hold of it. I loved it. And over the years, I went from being a corporate trainer to working with government agencies, municipalities, state agencies, and that evolved into working with small businesses, and then I worked with solo entrepreneurs. And now I'm at a place where I work primarily with solo entrepreneurs and small businesses. And by small businesses, they can have several million in revenue. And Power Up for Profits is really about helping entrepreneurs to realize that in order to have a viable business, you have to have profits. So I teach them how to package their knowledge, how to write books, how to get out and market themselves, how to become visible, but most of all to really look at, are you in service in your business? Is your business a means to do something big in the world? And by big in the world, it doesn't have to be world-renowned, but it has to be where it's really impacting your customers and clients in a very positive way so that they can go out and do what they're here to do. I think more than anything now, it's really important for those of us who have come to that awareness to be willing to step up to the plate and say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to really help as many people as I possibly can. And now with the Internet, that is possible, and that's where the premise of Power Up for Profits really resides in, is that it's about being powerful in your business. And really where I came up with the name, it was with the help of a business coach. She said, what's the most important thing in your life? I said, my relationship with a higher power, with God. And she said, and what else is important? I said, well, profits in my business. And we came up with the name Power Up for Profits because it's power in your business. It's a connection with God, source, higher power.
Up.
Yeah. And then obviously having profits. And, you know, this is where a lot of people that either are new to business or they romance the idea of having a business get misguided. They don't want to talk about money. And women especially, I see this more in women than men. It's like it's a dirty conversation, and especially if you start talking about making six figures in your business. There was a big conversation going on about a month ago on Facebook about how disgusting it is for us to even think that we should make $100,000. And I thought, why would that be disgusting? Because the more money you make, the more good you can do in the world.
Yeah, you know, I've heard it said, I want to make as much as I can so I can give as much as I can. How about that?
Absolutely. And I love listening to Joel Osteen, and he was talking about success being really where it's not how much we can acquire now, it's about how much we can give away. And yesterday in the town that I live in, there was one of the homeless shelters that actually had a major fire, and they're thinking, you know, how are we going to take care of these people? And people in the community came forward and were making donations and bringing food and bringing bedding and, you know, just really stepping forward. And when we have successful businesses, we're in a position to do that kind of gifting, if you will.
Yeah, you know, and you move from striving to, you know, clawing and scratching to make a buck to then thriving, and then to the point of wanting to give back. And, you know, you get some of these, you know, and I would submit to you that it's a mindset where, you know, yeah, you need to go through that time where you have to fight and scratch and try to make ends meet just to pay your bills. But as soon as possible, you know, because Scripture teaches to whom much is given, much is, you know, required. And many times it is, you know what, I might not be able to give back, quote unquote, millions of dollars today, but boy, I can give $10 to the homeless shelter. I can go down and give some of my time through some of my abundance that I have in my business. And then as business grows and grows, maybe that $10 turns into $100. So I think that that's a really excellent mindset. And, you know, you're mentioning about online. What do you think, you know, you think 10, 15, 20 years ago, so much has changed. I remember when I got out of college in about 90, and got my first job, and there was this thing called a fax machine, and it had remember thermal paper that you would come out and it would be all curled up, and you know, that's how you got information out. There literally wasn't email and all that. So much has changed. So what do you feel is changed about running a business other than the Internet? I mean, because that's obvious, but what are some of the key things that business owners need to keep in mind regarding change?
Well, you know, that is such a great question, Mike, and I think a big change that's occurring now is we really have a lot more power and control over what we do in our businesses than ever before. And I also think, and we had a short conversation before our talk right now took place about how people are having certain language patterns on the platform, but I think that people can be a lot more individualized in who they are and their expression in business than ever before. I actually know quite a few Gen Xers who you would look at them and think that they don't have two nickels to rub together, and they're worth millions upon millions of dollars. My own business consultant right now, he is known for wearing shorts, a T-shirt, a scrungy old baseball cap, and he makes $20 million a year. And you wouldn't know that to look at him, and yet that's just who he is. And so I think really a big change has been we can be very individual to who we are, which is a double-edged sword. Anything is a double-edged sword. You know, water can be good or it can be bad. Fire can be good or bad, and being completely yourself can be good or not so good, especially if you have the attitude, well, I don't give a darn what anybody thinks, because I think even though we can not care too much about what people think, I think there's a part of us that really should care, because it's called human decency, it's called consideration, it's called respect. But there's that whole aspect of you can really be who you want to be. There's more home businesses than ever before. We were having that conversation also about how many people work out of their home. And what's interesting is for 19 years I worked out of my home, and I live in a small rural community where we have one strip mall, and the strip mall has the dog groomer, the hair salon, the barber shop, the post office, the insurance agent, Power Up for Profits. And
the insurance agent, the post office.
It was a big deal when Power Up for Profits opened up, because people were like, what do you do? And I said, well, I don't do it here. What I do, I don't do it here. It's on the internet. And finally I had to just say I'm an author. And they got that. They couldn't understand what working on the internet meant. A lot of people thought that meant a scam or something. But, I think people working out of their homes is big. But then now a lot of people that have been working out of their homes are wanting to get storefronts, just for the separation of home and business. A big thing is social media and the relationships that we build. Now, unfortunately, with social media, you can have a lot of relationships online and think those are real relationships, but when it really comes down to it, who are your true friends? Who are really the people that in an emergency they would be there for you? So I think those would be a few of the changes. I also think that there's more opportunity now than ever before through information marketing to have multiple streams of revenue and never have to go out in public, which is kind of, a double-edged sword, where you can work behind your computer and for days on end not see anybody. I found myself ordering file folders the other day from Amazon, and I thought, wow, there was a day that I said I would never do that I wouldn't do most of my purchases online when it first started happening.
Well, and I would ask you, what do you need a file folder for? Why do you have paper?
Well, I'm in my 60s, okay, so that'll explain a little bit of it. So I am in my 60s, and, some habits die hard. And I even, speaking of fax machines, I have a fax machine that's been collecting dust. It's not even plugged in, and I look at it going, why do I even have that thing? And I actually had somebody yesterday say, can I fax you something? It's like, no. You can't.
It doesn't work. Well, interesting, we could talk forever on changes and all that, but one of my kids are heading to camp this summer, and we needed a document signed by the doctor. Well, I don't have a fax machine, but for some reason the doctor's office won't let you email something and you have to fax it. So I scanned the document in. We had all filled it out and signed it. We scanned it in, put it on a thumb drive, put it into the cloud, and I did a e-fax. Wow. And it got there to the doctor's office, and by the end of the day, they had faxed it back to my e-fax number. And now, I print it off so we can have a physical copy to hand to the camp. But then I also saved it as a PDF because we have to upload it somewhere else for something I forgot. But right. It really is something where the more efficient we can be, the better use of our time that we can have. But you mentioned something interesting I wanted to touch on, which is your business coach who dresses down but is worth gillions and trillions of dollars. Well, I just went to the Digital Marketing Summit in Denver here this past week, and I noticed that one of the main speakers who literally said the words from stage, "I am rich," and if I mention the name, you go, "Oh yeah, he's rich." He walked out in jeans, tennis shoes, and a T-shirt.
Right. Right.
And when you get to that level, you don't care how you look. But what do you think, given where trends have come, and let's speak to the impression that you have or want to have with your target audience regarding your persona, your look, your language, how you speak, to also have them take your advice seriously. Because in many businesses, if you showed up in jeans, T-shirt, and a pair of sneakers, and you're giving high-level business advice, you might be laughed at until you get that reputation that precedes you, and people go, yep, that's just the way they dress.
Well, I think you said a key word, which is target market, because it really depends on who your target market is. When I was working in the corporate environment, when I worked with government agencies, when I sat on a council for the Department of Workforce Services at one point in my my business, I wore business suits, and that was just the way it was. If I wanted to play in that environment, I had to play according to their rules quite seriously. And now most of the people that I work with, they haven't had a business suit on in ages. And when I do events, part of my branding is that I do wear jeans, I do wear Western boots, and I wear nice blouses and often leather jackets. And that is just part of my branding. It's interesting because it took a business coach to help me kind of pull the cover on that, where I was wearing business suits, and she said, "Why are you dressing like a frumpy old grandmother?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," And she said, "I would like you to get rid of all your business suits." And I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that." And it was so interesting because in my family, I have an aunt who's in her 80s, and she was like freaking out, like, "You can't do that, you can't do that." And what was interesting is when I started being more of who I am and what is true to my branding and my personal choices, I found that my business grew. So I really think it depends on the market. I think it depends on what message you are trying to get across, how important it is for you to, if wear business suits, you would wear them. And as a matter of fact, I just went to a mastermind with my business coach, and there was one gentleman who was in a suit, and I said, "Why are you wearing a suit when it's 100 degrees out?" And he goes, "Oh, it's all a part of the image I want to project." And I said, "Why are you trying to project it to all of us?" It really didn't make any sense.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the big changes in business, is that we're not confined to the rules of yesterday. Now, the whole issue of profanity and swearing on the platform, I know a lot of people do that. I've been guilty of it myself, and I actually have caught myself thinking, why am I doing that? And I was modeling after other people that I thought, oh, that's the cool thing to do. And then I realized that's not who I want to be seen.
It's not me, yeah.
So I think that for all of us, we just have to make choices on a day-by-day basis of who do we want to be, and what's true to us. It's not putting on this facade. It's truly, who am I? And, for example, I have a very spiritual background, and I've been to pyramids in Egypt, in Mexico. I've done meditations with some really amazing people. I also have gone to very traditional churches, and I have a whole hodgepodge of beliefs that I've studied. And I have managed to incorporate that into my business, although I don't lead with that. It's like I don't say, okay, I'm a spiritual consultant, but there are very spiritual principles in what I teach. One of the most spiritual things that I teach my clients is pay your bills. Period.
Yeah.
It's very spiritual.
That's spiritual
to honor
for you.
agreements. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in all this fanfare with anything in life that we forget the simplicity and the basics of what makes a good life. And it really filters into our businesses. Because one mentor I had, she actually wrote a book called How You Do Anything is How You Do Everything. And that really has stuck with me about every little thing you do is a reflection of truly who you are. And so you may be cash register honest, but are you truly honest about the work ethic that you have? All of those things, I think it gives us time to reflect and really look at, are we creating the life that we truly want, and are we a good representation of what an entrepreneur is and what we want to project?
And I think once you can figure that out, you can do some things to create that, like you said, the persona, because, what if you wanted to work with Western-focused women? Well, you would want to dress a certain way. What if you wanted to work with, men who own construction companies? Well, you certainly wouldn't show up to those meetings in a suit and tie because those guys are in work boots and hard hats. So you really have to know yourself, your target audience, and what would make them feel good. Like, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, when you're talking to, meeting with, and networking with people of whatever your target audience is, you really do want to do the things like them, but I think that there is that level where if it's just one notch above where you're trying to project, that's fine. But if it's too many, then you're just putting people off. As an example, let's say that you want it to be casual. Does that mean cutoff jeans, flip-flops, and a tank top? Or does that mean khaki pants and a nice dress shirt? So
right.
I think that's a big piece of it there, too.
Well, it's interesting because I actually work, I have clients within the pet industry. And again, I don't target the pet industry, but it came as a result of doing a fundraiser for a rescue dog that we have. And I'm very into animal rescue. And so I did this fundraiser, did a crowdfunding, did Thunderclap, did all this stuff to get some money for major surgeries that this poor thing needed. And as a result, somebody who had been on my list for quite some time, who runs the largest animal blogger conference in the world, she contacts me and said, would you come out and speak at our conference? I said, well, I'm not an animal blogger. She goes, no, but you know how to use the internet to make money, and that's what these people need. And that one opportunity has turned into so many opportunities. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result of it, and it all started by doing a fundraiser for a dog, who, by the way, she was supposed to live maybe a month or two, and that was it. That was about 2.5 years ago, and she's a little Shih Tzu, a toy Shih Tzu. She was a breeder dog. That's why she had so many tumors and needed so many surgeries. She had rotted out teeth. I mean, they had just used her and abused her and threw her out, and she could hardly walk when she made her way to our home. And now she's as ornery as ever, very entitled, very demanding, and she is blind, she's deaf, and she has very few teeth, but she's the love of my life. I just adore this little thing. And by just doing what I felt called to do, she actually opened up a number of opportunities, not only for me, but for some other people too. It's been really amazing how that's worked. But within that industry, for me to go in a suit would be ridiculous because these are people that are around animals, they love animals, and they wear jeans most of the time. So,
yeah, and so you have to speak that language. And let's use another example. If you were meeting with a group of people from New York, as opposed to a group of people from West Virginia. And you would speak at a different cadence. And this is not saying anything negative against either side, but people from New York speak faster, and people from West Virginia speak slower. So you would not want to have a New York person presenting to a group in West Virginia speaking as fast as they do, because they would just kind of get lost. And you wouldn't have someone in West Virginia speak to a group of people from New York at their slow cadence, because you would just bore the daylights out of them. So I think you have to know that as well. And for being a speaker, you would know those kinds of things too.
Absolutely. So that's interesting.
So what do you think about, since your business name has the word profit in it, we'll close with this question. What do you think about the concept of the chief end of all business is to earn a substantial profit?
If you don't have a profit, you don't stay in business. I mean, it's really that simple. And, we can flower it up, we can dress it up, we can do whatever we want to, but the bottom line is you have to know your numbers. You have to know what your profit margins are. You have to know your ROI. Right now I'm doing some major advertising in a number of areas. Facebook happens to be one, but then I'm also doing some lead purchases. And we're looking at our numbers very carefully. If I spend $5, I want to know, what did I get returned on that $5? And, so profits are something that people need to focus on. They need to understand. And if you don't understand it, then either get a business coach that can help you, take classes, learn what you need to learn to run your business like a business. And this is where I see people really miss the boat, is they think that they can just have a dream and their business is somehow going to take off. I see this with authors all the time. I'll write a book, put it on Amazon, and I'll get discovered. It doesn't work that way. You really have to be responsible and accountable for what's going on in your business on all levels.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, the people that, feel like, well, profit, it goes both ways. And I teach some marketing classes for universities, and that's one of the concepts in one of them. And it kind of goes all around with what you said to also, well, we want to impact the, community around us. And that's wonderful and great too. But guess what? If you don't turn a profit, you're not there to impact the community. You're not there to pay the salaries of your employees. And guess then what the domino effect is? Now, because you wanted to cut your margins so thin because you felt averse to whatever, profit or success or whatever the underlying problem is, now you can't even pay the bills and you're out of business. So where does that leave you? Whereas if you did a fair business and had a fair profit margin without gouging and taking advantage, but now all of a sudden you have the profits to pay your staff and to then give back to the community with some corporate social responsibility and community events and, just giving back. Hey, come in and buy our widget, and every widget that you buy, we're going to donate X dollars to the local, dog shelter. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's strategic philanthropy. You might not have tens of gillions of dollars to give to that shelter, but doggone it, if you, and pun intended, doggone it. Anyway,
doggone it.
if you can buy this widget, we'll donate some profit to this organization, and that stimulates a sale and a gift.
Absolutely. And you really hit on something about paying your employees. One of the things that I really enjoy about having a profitable business and a successful business is the people that I hire, and I contract most of the staff that works with me, but I can pay them as soon as I get their invoice. I even pay a few of them ahead of time because they're pretty much startups, and I have some that have been in business for years, and others they're brand new to their business. So I do what I can to make it as comfortable for them as possible, but I really pride myself on the fact that I am contributing to their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so I think that, if we start looking at really what a profitable business can do, not only for our own life, but for our community, as you've mentioned, for the people that work for us and work with us, for our customers and clients, we can create a better experience for them. And it's kind of the domino effect of just be the model of what you want to see happen in the world. And I would say on all levels, with everything that's going on in the world today, rather than pointing the finger and saying they should do this, they should do that, what can we each individually do to make the world a better place?
I feel like we should have the national anthem playing after that. That's such a perfect ending. It's such a huge concept, and it sounds easy to roll off our tongues. But if we can just focus every day on, making a positive impact to the people we serve, we interact with, that the world, the business world, would be a better place. So,
Absolutely.
With that said, what is the best way for people to learn more about you and your business, and to see how they can take advantage of some of the services that you offer?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. The best way is actually to go to Power Up for Profits, plural, powerupforprofits.com, and there's a lot of great information on there, and I would encourage people to click over to my blog, and I've got a lot of great content on my blog. Specifically now I'm focusing on book marketing. So if they've thought of writing a book, that's the place to go to get a lot of great information on marketing your book. So,
excellent. Well, Kathleen, Thank you so much for your time. It was great getting to know you.
Thank you, Mike, and you have a wonderful day, and God bless you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.